audio experience, Honda Classic DraftKings picks, and preview. Want to let everyone know, please give the episode a like. And I do have a big announcement. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the DraftKings YouTube and Facebook page. Live chat with me about the Honda Classic. You can come subscribe for free, leave your questions, we'll have a chat about it. It'll be fun. So remember to tune into that. It'll be up on demand later in the night on like the podcast feeds and everything like that. Also, go subscribe to the podcast feeds and leave a review and do all that fun stuff. The stats I'm going to be using today are from fantasynational.com. You can go become a member at fantasynational.com right now. Get all the rolling stats, the most customizable on the planet, lineup generators, ownership projections, simulators, everything that you're going to want if you want to prep for the Honda Classic. Joining me, someone who is not afraid to win playing the DraftKings golf from fanvice.com. It's Ben Rasa. What's going on, dude?
Hello, sir. How are you?
Are you ready for a big week now that you're on the show?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, you had me on 2 weeks ago. I was right where I wanted to be. I was leading the dog leg, got late on Saturday, early Sunday. Fell a little, but it was good. You didn't have me on last week. I had no Bubba. It was a disaster week. I had a lot of burger. So I'm glad to be back on. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, well, it came down to we were trying to figure out what to do in that range. I talked to Leone about it, and we were like, I was like, I like Bubba. I really like Kevin Na. He's sneakily popping up for me. He's like, but I also like Ollie and Berger. So what I did was put all my shares onto Ollie and Berger and none onto Bubba and Na. So I lost. And that was awful.
That's the Celebrity All-Star game. That actually affected things. How only Bubba that could happen to. It really came full circle.
This is true. Let's go to the top of the pricing. We have 5 players over $10,000 this week. Leading it off is the highest in odds, the highest in DraftKings price, and your defending champion. It's Ricky Fowler. He comes in at $11,700. He's followed by Rory at 11.5, Justin Thomas at 11.3, Sergio at 10.5, and Noren at 10.1. But I want to talk about the big three. I said this on yesterday's show with Feinberg. When you're looking at the prices of the three of them, they're all so similar. When you look at the odds of them, they're all so similar. Who actually fits this course the best? Well, all three have experienced success at this course in the past. I actually prefer Justin Thomas the most of these three guys. And it's not just because he's the cheapest. I think he's actually kind of a perfect fit for here.
See, for me, I mean, I think Ricky is the safest. If I'm using one of them in cash, that's where I would go. Not just because he's coming off the win. I like when he doesn't, he can drive it fine, but, in a course like this, you don't have to. He can just lean, sand saves, things like that. Good with the approaches. Obviously, he can putt the lights out. Rory's the guy, his weapon is the driver. Not that he's playing great anyway, but I think he's coming along nicely. But yeah, I think for me, I would lean Ricky up top in terms of safety. The other two, there's no problem. They have the firepower to just dismantle the course. We've seen it in previous years. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
So when you drop down to the next level and you see Sergio and you see Noren there, do you have a preference between either one of those two? Because I think Sergio is a bit underpriced compared to what Noren is up to right now. I think Sergio should really just be up where the top guys are. Like, I don't understand why we're getting a Sergio discount here. He's already won this year in Singapore. He's played well at this course in the past. He's a ball striker, and that's exactly what you want here. And if it starts getting windy, Sergio is absolutely the guy that you want to have on your DraftKings team. So I said I like Justin Thomas. Sergio might actually be my favorite play of all the 10K guys, even when you take pricing out of it.
Yeah, I like Sergio as well. He seems a little underpriced. And I mean, I like Noren. He's a good player, but I'm not sure I'm ready to see 10K Noren and Gary Woodland at 9.7. I'm not sure that's the same realm that I'm living in right now. I have to get used to that, I guess, because I just think they're a little overpriced. I mean, he sets up fine, but man, it's tough to kind of start your teams there. I would much rather find the extra 400 and get up to Sergio.
So do you think that Sergio should be on that level with the top three guys?
Yeah, I have no problem with it. For me, in terms of, safety leading the pack, I think Ricky and Sergio set up the best. And then you got Rory and JT are kind of, they're just naturally more volatile just the way they play. Noren, I really don't know what to make. I didn't expect. I was thinking maybe 9 to 9.5. I didn't think 10.1. That's just a lot to pay for him.
I agree it's a lot to pay for Noren. I'm trying to figure out what sort of exposure that I'm going to want to these top 5 guys, because I think you can theoretically make a case for all of them. And it looks like right now, at least, that Rory is going to be the one who is the least owned of the 4. And that's how I ended up on Rory last week.
Don't tell me that, please.
But that's the trend that we're seeing. Like, it finally happened to Spieth. that, week after week after week, no one really used him. Then all of a sudden, hey, Jordan Spieth knocks out a top 10 all of a sudden. And it's like, oh, people will be back on him now. Rory hasn't had that pop moment, and we've seen him twice now. One week, he just horribly disappointed. He was okay last week. He just couldn't putt. So do you go to him here where he's won before, lost in a playoff before, and just seems to have this course figured out?
I mean, there's no doubt that I will have some Rory exposure. I think it's fine. Definitely not in cash. And I do think, all things considered, someone like Sergio for the $1,000 discount, it's probably your better, bang for your buck. But yeah, I mean, Rory, to me, I am biased because I love Rory, but I thought he played better than he scored last week. He wasn't that far off. Didn't do enough, clearly, but I think that it's coming. And, if he crushes this week, then it's too late. Obviously, you always want to be a little early on these guys, so I have no problem with it. But I think Sergio and Ricky, for me, are more kind of what I'm looking for.
So when you construct your GPP lineups, if I was playing 20, let's say this week, and I wanted to max out the $4, which I will do, and that's probably the 20 lineups that I'll play, would you have exposure to each one of the top 4, potentially top 5 guys, kind of mixing and matching, or would you go really hard stance on one or two of them?
I think Noren probably gets squeezed out for me just because I do want some type of stand. Nothing major. I think I'm making kind of bigger stands as we get lower. So I have no problem with the other 4. I'm sure I will have exposure, especially, it's about trying to average against the field. So if Rory is going to be in lesser owned, you don't need to allocate 10 lineups to him. You can get away with 30, 35% and have a nice success if he finds that lightning in a bottle, which could clearly happen with Rory.
So it's funny because I outright have a bet on Noren to win, because he was devalued compared to a lot of these guys. But once you put him on the same pricing tier as the guys that, in terms of betting odds, that are 8-1 and 10-1, 11-1, and Sergio is going to be, I believe he's down to 16-1 right now. Noren's still at 30. Like, you're getting twice the odds to bet him, but you're not getting that DraftKings discount. So I'll probably end up avoiding him. It's weird. I'll end up avoiding him on DraftKings, yet still be rooting for him to win for my outright prize. It's funny how
gotta do it.
It's funny how some of that stuff works out from time to time. Then we drop down to this $9,000 tier. You mentioned Gary Woodland. He had a strong finish here last season. He won in Phoenix a few weeks ago. And when I ran my custom model with my custom stats on fantasynational.com, whether it was by the last 8 rounds, the past 12 rounds, the past 24 rounds, the past 36 rounds, there's one guy that comes out on top of each of those stat power rankings, and his name is Gary Woodland. And I want to trust it so badly. It's just for whatever reason, I got a bad feeling about it.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. Obviously, you take the driver out of his hands, a lot of things set up. You talked about, great showing last year here. But I think we're kind of paying for all that with this price. Like, this is I'm not going to say absurd because, clearly he's playing well and it does set up. But, man, 9-7 for Gary Woodland, I don't feel comfortable doing it. And I don't think I think he'll still be pretty popular.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely going to end up being a chalk play this week.
Yeah.
I would expect his ownership, depending on what tournament that you're in, that I think he'll be a staple in cash lineups for sure. Like, I think the early cash build that I can see in my mind, that if you do want some savings and you don't like the back end, I think you can theoretically go Sergio Woodland to start and still end up with a pretty well-balanced team. But in terms of Woodland GPPs, like, you're probably looking at 20%, give or take a few on either side.
Yeah, I mean, 20% Gary Woodland at 9,700. There's multiple things wrong with that sentence. So I'm going to try to avoid that as best I can.
So when you drop down lower and you see like Hatton's right below him, Fleetwood, Reed, and Knox is gaining some buzz, at least internet buzz that I've been seeing. People are talking him up here. He, too, has lost in a playoff here. That was the year that Rory lost in the playoff, and Henley ended up winning. However, I like Hatton and Fleetwood. Like, for whatever reason, people are like trashing Tyrrell Hatton this week. I know it's his first time over. He was T4 here last year. They're like, oh, he hates Bermuda grass. Who cares? He can hate it as much as he wants. All I care about is the results. I love Fleetwood here. I think he's supremely discounted. So I think those two guys are really where I want to go with everything. Hatton, Fleetwood. I'll play both those guys over Gary Woodland.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I stand on Hatton, to be honest. I like Fleetwood a lot. Wasn't on him last week at all. He made, I don't know if you saw him Thursday, every single hole, he had a 15-footer for par, it seemed like, and he just made them all. But then the irons, they rounded into form, and it just sets up well for him. I think this is the type of course, we could see the success. I think the price is fair. I prefer him as well over Knox. Reed, I don't really know what to do with. I'm not going to make a big stand there. He's been burning me week after week. If short game is not that important, it doesn't seem like a Reed spot, honestly. So I kind of lead. Yeah, I'll lean with the Europeans as well.
Yeah, the weird thing is about the short game that in a way, it will end up becoming important to save par and save double bogey and stuff like that. And that is important. But if you're putting yourself in the position where you're constantly having to scramble and not hitting greens in regulation, you basically have no chance of winning.
Yeah, you got exactly. If you're getting up and down hole after hole after hole, you have bigger problems than obviously DraftKings points. So I don't love it for Reed. I think it's fine. I'm sure I'll have a little, but definitely not someone where I'm going to allocate a ton of ownership.
Yeah, so for me, it's going to be Fleetwood, then Hatton if I had to sort of power rank the guys in this range, and that's where my heavy exposure is going to be. And even in terms of Tommy Fleetwood, I mean, I love Fleetwood, and I wasn't on him last week. I just didn't really like the spot traveling from Europe all the way to LA, playing a super long course. This is more of a ball striker paradise. And he acquitted himself very well last week. He lost a few strokes putting, gained a few with his approaches, and he gained a bunch off the tee. It was a short game in putting that let him down. I think that could rectify itself here. And I just look at other players that have won here in the past. I mean, Ricky's weirdly sort of an outlier as it pertains to ball striking, because last year it was all short game and putting for him. He just lapped the field, making birdie putt after birdie putt after birdie putt. Generally speaking, when you see your Sergios or your Justin Thomases or your Adam Scotts who have played well here in the past, even Patty Harrington and Daniel Berger for that matter, it's ball strikers. And Tommy Fleetwood is one of the premier ball strikers in the world, regardless of tour.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think it sets up well. He obviously has no course history, but that doesn't bother me. And I like that he played last week. He's here. Not that that's a major issue for Hatton, but I do prefer that, Fleetwood got his feet wet, and now he comes to Florida. I think it's a good spot.
The $8,000 range kicks off with Brian Harman at $8,900. We saw him sort of hit the wall a little bit after some early season success. He's back in a place. I recall talking to Coach Esser on this show like 2 years ago and made big mention. It was like, I really like how Brian Harman sets up this week. And I mentioned this to Feinberg yesterday. It's like, and by the time I woke up, maybe it was him or maybe it was Zach Blair. It was one of the two, but I woke up and they were double digits over par by the time I woke up in the first round. So with Brian Harman, I think he's intriguing at $8,900. I think the shine is kind of worn off. Then it goes Berger, Snedeker, Duffner, Kisner, Ollie, Webb, Tiger, Rafa Cabrera, Bayo, Stallings, and Keimer both at $8,000. Do you have a preference in this spot? Because I was big on Ollie last week. I'm going to bite the bullet and go back to Ollie again.
Yeah, same on both fronts. I was on Ollie last week. Missed the cut. I mean, he didn't play good, obviously. Missed the cut on the number, though. Now, a guy who didn't miss the cut on the number, but I am going back, is Berger. I really like the spot for him. He was awful. Just everything that could have been bad about golf in his game, he was bad last week. There's really no way to chalk it up, but I think it sets up really well for him, back in Florida. And we've seen him before. He's kind of that kind of guy. I don't think he trends up the stuff. He can kind of just get it together and I wouldn't be stunned to see him just completely rebound and contend.
Well, the weird thing is, do you actually prefer that when stuff goes wrong for a player that it just goes wrong across the board and they get to kind of flush it out of their systems? Because I actually kind of like that. I don't think it's a trend because we've never seen him really since he's joined the tour play as poorly as he did last week. And I just don't see that continuing again.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I didn't like it just because he was so bad that his miscut was like 15 points behind all the other miscuts. But yeah, it was obviously an outlier. He's not going to play like that. So I'm hoping he just, he gets to reset. He gets to go to, Bermuda, which he does like, and of course that he's had success at. So no problem there. I'm hoping it brings his ownership down to an extent.
One of the things that I was looking at, and I put this out on Twitter, that I'm not sure if it's noise, there's anything to it. I mean, they're similar style courses, but Waialae, Colonial, and the Honda all have shared similar leaderboards, similar winners, similar top 10s, top 5s in the past before. And, all are 3-par 70s. They're all less than 7,200 yards. And one of the great things about Fantasy Nationals, I can highlight those 3 courses and just see, hey, what's the crossover between these and who continuously plays well? And there's 2 players that really popped out in terms of that. One was Kevin Kisner, who obviously won Colonial last year and has had a lot of success at the Sony Open and is a good Bermuda putter, don't forget as well. And Webb Simpson was the other one who everyone was really high on about 2 months ago. And since then, it's kind of went, as it does with Webb, because every time that he's chalk Webb, he is awful. But I don't think that he's going to be chalk Webb this time around, and I kind of have a little interest in him.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting spot. I still prefer Ollie over both of them. You don't have to convince me much to play Kisner. Hasn't had much success here, but he should. I think it does fit what he's trying to do. And then there's Webb, but yeah, I mean the price is more in a range where I don't mind it as much. We were paying, I thought, a premium for him for a while, and it kind of regressed now to where I think he should be. I thought you were going to say Ryan Palmer, full disclosure, when you mentioned those courses. I was scared that you were going to try to go there, but
hey, well, listen, we're not to Ryan Palmer yet, but maybe
okay.
I have some Ryan Palmer notes as well.
Oh God, yeah. Well, we'll cross that bridge in a few minutes, I guess. But yeah, I don't mind this range. Even RCB, I know we're dipping a little lower. He's interesting. He's playing well. Obviously, the iron's good right now. You just can't. Every time it seems like he's about to get on a real run, he misses too many putts. He's had a lot of eagle looks in the past couple of weeks that he can just not convert. But yeah, I like this mid-8s range. I think I'm definitely going to have some good plays from here.
So when I spoke about the crossover, so I did it by the past 24 rounds, and again, very easy to sort on Fantasy National. Here are the strokes gained total leaders between those three courses over their past 24 rounds. Webb Simpson's #1 in total strokes gained. Sergio, Woodland, Justin Thomas, Kevin Kisner, Adam Scott, Rory, Russell Knox, Snedeker, Tiger, Sean O'Hare, Brian Harman, Graham McDowell, Jason Duffner, and Daniel Berger. Are we underrating how good Jason Duffner can be this week?
Yeah, maybe, because I don't expect him to be popular. And even now, just looking through, I kind of glossed over him. It does set up well. I do prefer him at shorter tracks. Great ball striker. Obviously, putting can be an issue. God, it's just, it gets crowded fast. Him and Snedeker, I don't know what I'm really going to do with them. I'm not sure how much you'll need to get over the field. But yeah, I mean, we've seen Duff have some success here. I don't hate that.
Duffner right now, I have projected in like the 8 to 12 range in terms of ownership, and Snedeker I have in like the 5 to 8 range. But I think I do prefer Duffner over Snedeker, though.
Yeah, I do too. I definitely prefer Berger and Ollie again over most of these guys. But I think I might find a way to get some Duffner exposure, especially if I can get to like, you throw 15%, and if he comes in at that's say 7 or 8%, you have almost 2x, which is pretty nice.
It is. So how would you try to divvy it up? Obviously, you like Ollie and Berger the best. I don't know if I have a favorite from this range, which is kind of weird, so I might just kind of scattershot everything. But I do like Kisner. I will have a little bit of Duffner, but probably less than the other guys. Like you, I'm going to be in on Ollie. Berger, I will have just at a principle for it, but I don't feel super great about it with some of the other options here. Like Kisner and Webb, I think, make a pretty compelling case, and we just kind of skimmed over Harman. We talked about him briefly, but it just seems like no one's going to use him.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be low-owned. I have no interest in Harman. I think the shine is, not that I was on him, he was killing me week after week, but I think taking the break kind of puts him in the reset mode. So for me, yeah, Berger and Ollie, and then I'll probably take a fair amount of people like we just talked about, Kiz, Duffner, maybe even Webb, and then the next, working a little more down, you got RCB and Keimer, who are definitely guys I'm looking at.
Yeah, so Tiger, chase or fade?
I'm closer to playing him this week than any other week, but I'm still probably not going to play him.
It's funny in terms of Tiger, because this is the first week where I was like, Tiger has not a shot to win here. And by his price, you don't need him to win, but you would like to have some upside in this opportunity. But I think that he does make the cut this week. I think this course, weirdly enough, because it's so hard, the one thing that has actually returned for Tiger, his putting has been really sharp. We know he can putt on any surface. The short game hasn't been as bad as maybe I thought it was going to be. It's just he can't hit his driver right now. Unfortunately, you don't need to hit driver this week.
Yeah, that was my exact thought process too. Last week we saw that clearly, when he has to take driver out, it's a big problem. So I don't mind it here. The problem is it's just we just rattled off a handful of guys at the same price. I'm not sure I have much room for Tiger, but yeah, I'm definitely closer this week to actually considering to use him.
Well, the big thing is, you mentioned it with Rory, where it's always better to get in on these guys a week early. And even if it blows up your lineup for 2 weeks, the upside with Rory is that, hey, Rory won by 8. That's just not happening with Tiger right now, and you don't get the discount in terms of ownership whatsoever, because people just play Tiger every single week regardless. And like you said, there are probably 7 guys in this $8,000 range that I would play before Tiger.
Yeah, and that's the exact problem. Well, we're moving down to Adam Scott. I kind of feel the same way about him.
Oh, wait till we get to Adam Scott.
I'm telling you, the problem with him is we're now in the like, oh, if he makes the cut, like, is he really gonna contend? Because I'm not sure I'm there yet.
I think he might win, but that's me. So why not?
All right,
Why
well,
not? He's won here before. He's starting to play better. We know that at his peak, he's excellent.
That's what I'm saying though. Like he's starting to play better because he's finally making. I mean, he did what he always does, which is miss a 2-foot putt to miss the cut. The cut line just happened to get him in. So I'm not sure I'm there. He's another one. But yeah, I agree. Tiger, yeah, if he makes the cut, he's not going to kill you. But is he really going to contend this week? I don't think so. But it is an interesting spot just because he doesn't have to use driver.
So Rafa Cabrera Bello and Scott Stallings are right below him. I'm not going to use Tiger. I'm not going to use Stallings. I just have a weird relationship with RCB. I always prefer him at lower prices. When he starts inching up, I don't like him as much, but I'm in on Keimer. Now, I wouldn't say I'm going 100% Keimer, but I'm 100% in on Keimer. I went back and looked at his past 70 events. Keimer has made 89% of his cuts over that period. That is a 2.5-year stretch. He doesn't have any like great finishes, but the guy just makes the cut every single week. And I don't know. I'm always willing to invest in if Keimer hits his peak. His peak is as good as anyone's. I don't know if he still has that upside, but I like to believe it's still in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he's at the height of his powers too often anymore, but you just talked about it. It seems like even when he doesn't have it, he finds a way to just get through. It's not what you're looking for, but he doesn't kill, your week's not over. And that's just such a good skill for someone at 8,000. You got guys.
Would you say Keimer and Cash?
Yeah, I think so. He's just so consistent. I'm not saying I don't like the spot. I think it's a fine spot. It sets up good. It's just he always seems to find a way, even when he doesn't have it, to hold it together, to get through. And then, you get to the weekend, you see what happens. You can make so much ground up, especially at a place where you're not going to see a ton of streaks here. It's going to be more towards placement points. So just the ability to kind of grind and get through stretches. There's tough stretches, obviously. That definitely is a boost for Keimer.
Well, one of the things that I always like about Keimer is him at difficult courses where his accuracy can really come into play. Like, you're not going to see Martin Keimer just dunk a few into the water. I mean, now that I've said it, it's probably going to happen. But historically speaking, that's not really his game. He's going to hit into the middle of the fairway. He's going to hit a few 5 irons and 6 irons and put it in the middle of the green. And hopefully you get lucky with his putting that week. That's how he's trying to play the game. But he doesn't put himself into position to make a lot of horrible numbers. And at PGA National, I think that's really important.
Yeah, especially, you just talked about a course like this, stay out of the water. If his around the green isn't stellar, that's an understatement.
No, yeah, it is not great. It is not in the realm of JJ Spawn from last week or Sean O'Hare from last week, but it's not good.
It's not good. But again, if that's not too heavily correlated, which I don't think it is, he can lean on the approach, lean on the irons, and hopefully he makes enough putts. That's always a wild card, but I'm willing to take the chance. You're not going to find many guys who have that safety net.
Just even looking back at his past few events, it's tough to really get a gauge on how well he's playing because you look overseas and all you really have are results to kind of analyze, unless you were sitting down and watching every Euro Tour event for the past 6 months, which I hate to tell you, I was not. There's football season, there's PGA going on. Talk to Wiley about that. Wiley's always watching the Euro Tour. He's up at like 3:30 a.m. But so subscribe to Podlandia if you want to. You can get all the Euro stuff that you want, along with the PGA. I listen to it every week. It's fantastic. But at Genesis last week, he lost a stroke and a half around the greens, but he was positive off the tee, positive with his irons, positive with his putter. Like, again, it's not that around the green is going to hurt you. Obviously, having a positive around the green is always going to be a good thing. Gaining strokes anywhere is always going to be a good thing. But I just think that if someone gains like 4.5 strokes around the green this week, they might come T8 because they're not giving themselves enough birdie opportunities in order to contend. At least with Keimer, I know he's going to hit a ton of greens in regulation, like I mentioned. Like, can he make a few 20-footers? I think that he can.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we kind of saw. I'm glad he played last week, and we saw last week I didn't think he played well, but he made the cut. He grinded a little. It wasn't what you were looking for, but he gives you a chance. And like I said, there's just so many volatile options at a course with water, which is, it's a wild variance thing. couple water balls and you're in huge trouble. He's not likely to do that, which is a huge plus.
Are you pumped that Brendan Steele's not in the field this year?
This was the tournament where Brendan Steele had like 8 water balls, right?
Yeah.
And then he came back, after he had made like 30 cuts in a row.
Everyone was so... I've never seen... Because I think he was the highest owned player last year, too, in the spot, because he was a really good price. And yeah, you mentioned it, like, oh, he's made 31 cuts in a row coming in. Yeah. He has a great course history. I've never seen people tilt so hard, ever. No millionaire maker at majors, no nothing. It was funny because it was the Honda Classic at like 9:30 in the morning on Twitter about Brendan Steele.
Yeah, I remember that. That was... And then it actually turned out great because, like, when you grind back from that, the amount of points you rack up for being, like, 2 over is absurd.
I think he ended up T13 for the week.
That is ridiculous.
That's when Brendan Steele became a hero to us all.
Yep, and now he's not here.
No, now he's not here. Probably doesn't want to go through that experience.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to go out. Just leave that, let that be your legacy at the Honda.
$7,000 level kicks off with local resident and South African Louis Oosthuizen, who, as Feinberg mentioned, can sleep in his own bed this weekend.
That's
Always
important.
a big positive. Coming in after him, it's Bud Colley. Then we have Kiradech Epi Barnrat playing for the first time since his win in Perth 2 weeks ago. First time in the U.S. this year. Then Hadley, Scott, Keegan, Henley, Bernd Wiesberger making his debut in the U.S. Dylan Fertelli, or Dylan Fertelli, as I like to call him. He comes in at $7,600 along with Shane Lowry. So of that $76,000 to $79,000 range, I'm going to be in on Louis. I'm going to be in on Keegan. I'm going to be in on Keegan. And Cheston Hadley and Adam Scott are both just going to be locks in my lineup. Like, the ball striking has just been there for them. And Cheston Hadley, weirdly enough, has been someone who has performed well at this tournament in the past, and now he's a far better player. He's riding 4 top 5s in his past 8 starts, 8 cuts in a row. He's shaping off an awful lot, now that I mention it, a lot like Brendan Steele did this tournament last year. Similar price, similar skill set, and trending in the right direction, as the people like to say. So I do like Hadley. I do worry that he's Andercursed, and that might, pull back a few shares from me. But I am in on Adam Scott. I'm going with Adam Scott this week. I'll go down with the ship.
You might be going down with the ship. I'm not gonna lie. I'm with you with Hadley. He's just it's funny. He's one of the guys. You look at his history at stuff. I don't really read much into it because he's just a far better player now than he's ever been. He's just playing great golf. I'm going to continue to use him. I can't put Russell Henley. No Russell Henley love.
I can't figure out how to use Russell Henley ever. It never works out for me.
Yeah, a lot of people say that about him. I don't know. I feel like I'm on the other side. I get him right more often than not.
So is this a Henley week or not then?
I mean, it seems. I think a lot of people are going to think that, which makes me a little scared just because he has the win here. But I think it is. He was good. He was so underpriced the other week. Now he's coming back. Bermuda, Florida. I think it sets up well. He's one of the safer. I mean, he's sandwiched between crazy risk with Scott, Keegan. I don't know what to do with them. Usti's interesting. I think the price is fine. He's another one, though. You never really know what you're going to get. It wouldn't surprise me to see him like 6 over. It wouldn't surprise me to see him contend. Huge range of outcomes. And then the last guy for me, so Hadley, I like Henley. I don't mind Byrne. Wiesberger's always a guy I like to use. I think this is a course that if he's going to make an impact over here, it seems like the kind of track. I think it sets up pretty well for him.
Yeah, it does. We always talk about Bernd Wiesberger in terms of, he's not going to win the Sony Open at minus 25, but he can grind out a win fest and win at 7 under. That's sort of the game that he's going to play. So I do understand that. Do you have any interest in Fertelli coming over? I believe he played at the University of Texas. I could be wrong on that. But he only has 6 recorded rounds, at least in the past few years in terms of PGA. On Bermuda grass, so I was kind of trying to filter through the stats. I like him. I think he's a very good ball striker, which I think helps a lot here. I just don't know if I want to use him for the first time playing on tour.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. He's a good player. In Euro, he's great. I just think for me, like, it's an easy choice. I would take Wiesberger. I would take Grillo right below him pretty easily. So I think it's kind of an unnecessary flyer.
What about Appy Burnrat?
I don't know. He seems to me like the kind of guy that's going to be finding the water. That's just It's just a gut feel with him. I would rather just roll to Henley or even Bud Cauley. Bud Cauley's now his price is back up, but he always plays well. He's just a good, solid player. I don't think I'm going to use Zaffy Barnrat.
Okay, so when we drop down a little bit more into the $7,500 area, you hit on some names already. So just below Shane Lowry is J.B. Holmes, Thomas Peters, Emiliano Grillo, Johnny Vegas after a top 5 here at this course last year, burning everyone last week. Peter Uihlein is 74, so is Benny On, Luke List, Ryan Moore coming off a good week. Sung Kang is in that range too. So you like Grillo. I actually like Luke List. It's one of these tournaments where he can still use his off-the-tee game to his advantage. We've seen him perform well here in the past. The ball striking is coming back up. I think that he's a very interesting play. I don't think that he's going to put a ton into the water. He might 8-putt a few greens, but I think that he'll keep himself relatively safe here. And I think this is a pretty nice price for a guy that we know can pile up birdies in a hurry.
Yeah, upside, not a problem with Luke List. It's just going to be, can he hold it together? Can he get through the cut? But he's been a little more stable lately. I don't mind that at all. For me, I think I'm rolling with Benny On. I like that guy. Great ball striker, can't putt. That's just the way it is with him. I'm just going to kind of keep using him and hope that, one of these weeks he will find it and put it together. And I do like, he's another one. When everyone seems to be on him, that's the time to jump off. I don't think many people kind of looking at him much. He hasn't done anything. So, yeah, I don't mind him. There's a lot of guys in this range, though. You really look up and down. You can kind of make a case for most of them.
Will you be going to Peters? I recall Peters being very chalky at this site last year, coming off the T2 at Riviera. Everyone used him. He missed the cut. Is now a time to go back because the shine is wore off old Thomas Peters. He's a really nice price. Everyone's talking about using all the other Euros, but I would think in terms of DraftKings scoring, you mentioned burned. In terms of GPPs and overall scoring, Peters is probably he's higher variance for sure. He's probably a better play than Wiesberger is for upside.
Yeah, for upside, there's no doubt. He is the kind of guy that when everyone is on him, you kind of have to be hesitant just because he's not a cut maker. You saw it last week. He's just very, very volatile. So I don't mind rolling some shares there because he's the type of guy who can blow the field away. You're not going to get that with someone like Wiesberger. You talked about it. His ability to grind, and if it's really tough conditions, which it very well could be, get to 7 under, 8 under. Peters could go out and shoot 65, 65, and it wouldn't stun me. He's just got that kind of talent. So a lot of risk, but yeah, probably a worthwhile GPP flyer.
So from that range of 10, I like List the most, and then I would go Grillo second in that spot.
Yeah, for me, Grillo's first. I really like Grillo, and then it would be Benny On and probably Peters.
All right, so the next level down, Grayson Murray leads it off at $7,300. Old Grayson, see how well he's going to do around the Honda. We also have Jimmy Walker, Vaughn Taylor, Harris English, Patton Kazire, CH3, Scott Piercy, Ryan Palmer, Graham McDowell, all at $7,300. And then you have Ian Poulter, who was the 54-hole leader here 3 years ago, and then he went into the water late. And that was the end of old Ian Poulter, who was so close to his first actual PGA win. Didn't happen for him. But we've seen him play well at this course in the past. We've seen him play well at the Players, both short Bermuda, Florida tracks. I just don't like where he's at right now, and I would probably pay $100 up. And I'm going to see if I can ride the GMAC for him. Graham McDowell, let's do this, has played well at this course so often in the past. And he played well at Riviera last week, and there is no reason ever he should ever play well at Riviera.
Yes, that's what I took away from that. It just seemed like random outlier Graham. I don't know how anyone could have seen that coming. I don't know. He kind of scares me, to be honest. I think it sets up well. You look at the course history. You look at the recent, obviously last week. If I get a feel that he's going to be very popular, I will find a way to pivot because I just don't want to deal with that. I'm still a little skeptical that his game is what he showed last week. That was just such an out of left field performance. It was kind of weird.
$7,300 as well, someone who rates very highly in my model. I talked about the crossover between Colonial, Sony, and here. Well, he just won the Sony Open, and he has 2 wins on tour this year, and people just don't talk about him. It's funny that a guy who's won twice already is $7,300. Patton Kazire is just sitting there. Great ball striker. He scores on par 4s. He does almost everything that you would want at this course.
Yeah, I never play him, and I sometimes I wonder why, because you just talked about a couple wins this year, does everything you would want. I think the price now, after he got on that crazy run, he was getting up there. This is more where I'd want to target him. Ownership rarely, if ever, follows him, so you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. So I don't mind. Obviously, like I prefer him over someone like Grayson. I don't think this is the spot to target him. Uh, so yeah, I think it's pretty limited down here. I didn't see much, honestly, which is going to be interesting to see how people build, just taking the macro approach. I don't know how low you can really dip. There's a couple guys, but I'm not too comfortable in this range.
The other two guys that rated out really well for me at $7,300, one, we talked about it a little bit earlier, was Ryan Palmer. And the other one was Scott Piercy. I know it's weird to get him out of the desert, maybe where I'm looking at such short-term rolling stats that, the past 24 rounds, he played a lot of desert golf, and that's where he generally plays his best golf. But I know he's not an elite ball striker, but he's like low-rent Duffner when it comes to ball striking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a Scott Piercy fan. Waste management was really disappointing. I had him queued up for a big performance. It just did not happen. But other than that, he's been solid this year. At putting, you kind of have to live with. He has those stretches where it's really bad. So he's probably actually one of the guys I prefer in this range. I don't think ownership will be there. And then, I mean, what is there to really say about Ryan Palmer? Glad to see him playing better. It's amazing that he's made, he's got a string of made cuts here, just because I'm not obviously the only one saying this. He finds water on tracks where there is no water. So at something like this, I mean, he has to be the favorite for, a handful of water balls.
But it's weird. I went back and looked. If you go to the PGA Media website, they have like a big list full of guys that like haven't put it in the water on the bear trap. Like Michael Thompson's #1, and like #2 is like most holes without a water ball is Ryan Palmer somehow.
That's because he finds them at the other spots on the course where you're not even supposed to get into the water. It's just like I said, I'm not joking. I've seen courses where Ryan Palmer finds water, and it's not even on the shot tracker. It's just that's just what he does. He always finds the hazards. He does, being serious, he seems to like this course, and the game is on the upswing, no doubt, after where it was last year. But man, it's scary. Definitely wouldn't use him in cash. I guess if you want to go there, he's shown he can do it, but don't be complaining on Twitter if you see him hit it, back-to-back water balls.
Yeah, I think ever using Ryan Palmer in a cash game is probably an unwise decision.
No,
However, he's made 6 of his last 6 cuts at PGA National, 37th, 26th, 25th, 2nd, 41st, 26th. Not terrible results. Obviously, the second is really nice, but the other ones you'll take for the price that comes along with him. And he does score, so he probably performs a little bit better in terms of DraftKings points and his overall position. But the big thing that I kind of took away with this is he's made the cut every time in those 6 years. And you go back and look at his strokes gained putting over that time. Last year in his T37, lost 3 strokes putting, lost 1.2 the year before, lost 5.7 the year before that and came T25, lost 0.5, lost 0.8. He's not putting well right now. He's losing strokes on the green almost every single week, except for the week they made 3 eagles at the stupid Farmers. But take that out of the equation. He's gaining a ton of strokes off the tee because that's what he does, and the ball striking is back. Like, I don't think he's a terrible option.
No, I mean, and a guy like that, he obviously has shown if he putts ice cold, you're not dead. He can handle that because he's so used to it. His ball striking can carry him. And then, we mention all the time, it's such high variance with putting. If Ryan Palmer somehow can just hold his own and be average, man, what a boost for him. That's how he really breaks through and contends.
Last guy that I really want to go to, one of my favorite plays in the $7,000 range, we were talking about this just before we came on air. Sam Saunders, every single week, is $7,100, and every single week he makes the cut. Now, if DraftKings had like the reverse weekend golf, where you just played the first 2 rounds, he'd be like $10,000 every single week. He just comes out and burns it right away in terms of like first round leaders, second. But like he's played well at this course in the past, and almost a lot like Chesson Hadley, he's just a different player right now. He's playing really, really well. Really well,
yeah. We were talking about this before the show, and I was saying I think you got me on him. I've been using him at really low ownership. Blazes out of the gate, makes the cut with ease. Yeah, he usually doesn't hold, but you'll take that every single time at this price, especially when the ownership, I'm sure it will be bumped to an extent because he's starting to string them together. But man, it's appealing spot. And then I just real quick want to throw one more. Chris Kirk, who killed me the other week, I think is sneaky. He does some things that I do like. I think his ball striking can put him in contention at a place like this. So I don't mind taking a flyer there, even though he has cost me in recent weeks.
I will say the one thing about Chris Kirk that you'll notice right away is you're going to know if he's going to have a good week or a bad week after about 9 holes.
Oh, yeah. No, you quick death usually with him. So
some other names I think that you could kind of sprinkle around. One is my main man, Johnny question marks. Johnny, he's been playing all right, and
he's all right, yeah.
And but again, he's someone who's so accurate off the tee that I don't think that he's going to put himself into a lot of problems. I don't know how well he finishes, but I do see this as a spot where he makes the cut.
Yeah, I mean, he's been making cuts. Solid player. I don't love, but again, this is a tournament. It's worth repeating that you're not going to get blown away in terms of placement to actual DK scoring. There's just not that much room for streaks and other things. So if you can get a guy who grinds to, T30th, he's not going to be 55th in DraftKings points, most likely. It will correlate, and that does help a guy like that who doesn't have the huge upside.
The other one in the $7,000 range that I just play every week is Tom Hoagie. Guy makes a lot of eagles. So that's always nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of eagles.
There's only 2 spots to really. There's really only one spot where you can make an eagle here this week, and that's on 18. But still, Tom Hoagie just keeps making cuts every single week.
No, I have not been playing him at the. Last week he did get through. I don't know. I'm not a Tom Hoagie hater, but man, everyone seems to be loving to play this guy. I would much prefer. I don't really know. This is a pretty bad range, but I guess Billy Ho. I want to say I would prefer Lahiri. I don't know if I actually mean that just because.
I guess the big question when it comes to Lahiri is always, do you have the guts to watch him miss a 2-foot putt?
I mean, if you're going to play Adam Scott, then you should probably say yes to that.
Maybe, but at least I know when he's running well, Adam Scott can win these tournaments. Lahiri's not winning anything.
No, but Lahiri secretly does every so often. I think it was I want to say Memorial last year where he just he has tournaments where you don't think he's in contention, and then he doesn't win, but he comes in 7th, 5th. I'm not saying that happens here, but he's not that bad. I thought he played pretty well last week, T26. So
well, he did what you were talking about last week, where in the final round, all of a sudden I opened up my PGA Tour app and it was T7. Anherban Lahiri. I was like, I didn't even know he was playing in this tournament.
Yeah,
and then he went bogey, 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 and he was out of it.
Yeah, well, that part does happen too. But no, there are tournaments where he's just hanging around, and then he creeps into the top 15, and he's so really quiet about it. And when you're talking about a flat $7K price, clearly that's more than enough.
He's going to be more of a first-round leader guy for me. I think I'll stay away from him in the DraftKings.
That's fair.
There was one more guy I did want to talk about. Saunders, Tom Hoagie. Oh, Ben Martin was the other one. People like playing Ben Martin. I know you like Ben Martin.
Yeah, I'm always a Ben Martin fan. Bermuda, no problem. I think he's a Clemson guy, so pretty close. Playing good, making cuts. I think he's just a better player than this price range. So he's another one I would prefer over Tom Hoagie. And there's just limited options. I mean, if you take a couple of those top guys, you're going to have to find some ways to mix and match in the lower 7s or even high 6s, which is really, really ugly.
So when we drop below the $7,000 threshold, is there any player that you can think of that you would play in cash?
No. I'll say this. I think people will play Stewart Cink in cash, and I get that. I won't do that, though.
All right, so right now, in terms of chalk, as we look at it, from the sub $7,000 level, everyone's ownership is gravitating to A, Stewart Cink, and then B, Sean O'Hare. I put this out on Twitter last night, sort of a who am I type of thing. Someone who has made a lot of cuts at the Honda Classic in the past. In fact, he's made 4 cuts overall. He does have 4 PGA wins, which people really forget about, except last week he lost almost 6 strokes around the green. Now, if that's not going to be as big of a factor, then we'll see how that ends up going. But he's a very good price. The problem is everyone's kind of on the Sean O'Hare bandwagon right now that I don't know if I want to jump on for GPP purposes.
Yep, I wrote him up on my FanVice article, and I kind of said that it seems like this is the spot. Everyone thinks he's sneaky. I don't think ownership will get that high. I really don't.
I think it'll end up like 8 to 10%, which for a guy at 6,600, when everyone else around him is going to be like 0.7%, is a lot.
See, no, that is a lot. I was hoping, 3 to 5%. Just because the recent form is not much. He does have the course history, and he's an interesting spot. I kind of gravitated towards him, and then I had seen you and some other people mention it. It sets up decently well, and he's just priced around. There's not a lot of reasonable plays down here.
So the other guys, well, there is one reasonable play, a guy that I will be playing, because I played him last week in my best lineup, or what would have been my best lineup, except he shot 11 over par, and it was not good. It's JJ Spawn, coming back from the injury. Did not play well, but I didn't realize what he was doing poorly until I went and looked at it after the fact, because it's not like you ever get to see him on TV to see what's going on. He lost a combined 11 strokes between short game and putting last week. The tee and the approaches were still there. And if he can continue that up and he continues to ball strike, I'll just pray that he rebounds. And no one's going to use him now.
No one. See, he was so bad, I just assumed he was still hurt, to be honest. I didn't even look at his stats because he was absolutely horrendous. Yeah, I mean, if the tee and the irons are still there, obviously the stuff you want to see when you see someone like that is that he just couldn't putt. He couldn't, around the green was just a disaster. That's easier to forgive and correct. So I'm not sure I'll end up there again. I still am a little worried. I'm not sure what the deal is because he was so bad, but probably going to get him at 1%. And he's a quality player. We saw last year him rip off a nice stretch.
So last week when we look at it, he did lose strokes with his irons too. So I don't want to say he was like Sergio out there, but he gained a stroke and a half off the tee. He lost 1.9 with his approaches. He lost 5.9 around the greens and 5.1 on the greens. And there's only 2 rounds. This wasn't even a full tournament.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I don't even think that's repeatable.
No, that's kind of taking it kind of up top. For me, Berger, not that he was that bad, but that's not repeatable either. That's kind of a throwaway, get rid of it, hit the reset button, you get to travel, you go to a different surface. I think it does set up well when guys change to kind of hit the reset button if they're struggling.
So I just want to rapid fire through a few of these guys and just get your quick takes on them. Cody Gribble, the first round leader at this tournament last year. Any interest?
No.
Okay. William McGirt, $6,900. I went back and looked at first round leaders of the past 6 years. You see a bunch of names pop up more than once. Rory, Ricky, William McGirt, one of the other ones, along with Martin Flores.
Yeah, I like McGirt. I like him at a tournament like this, where he doesn't have to, you've mentioned it with a couple other guys, he doesn't have to go out there and shoot 64, 60. He can grind it out, has had some success here, and I think he's just a better player than most of these guys.
Former winner Rory Sabatini, who I am going to be off of because he's been a disaster with his irons over like the past 2 months.
Yes, you mentioned that. That is a huge red flag. You can't sustain. I see him playing decent golf, but that's the death sentence here.
Next one, Lanto Griffin.
No, Lanto Griffin makes, if there was a huge bonus for like 7 to 8 birdies in a row and that just made you win like the hole-in-one bonus, he would be interesting because he makes all his birdies in one stretch, and that's literally it.
It is, and it's funny because you always recognize, because his name is Lanto, so when it comes up on like Shot Tracker or like the PGA birdie notification, like, the hell is Lanto Griffin? How the hell did he even make the cut? Like, why has he made 6 birdies in a row?
Yeah, because it's on repeat because he just keeps making them on Saturday and he launches up the leaderboard and then you never hear his name until next week.
Yeah, for a guy that makes so many birdies in a row, you think he'd finish better than like T51 every week.
Yeah, no, that's what's absurd because it's amazing he does make the cut because all his birdies are in a 10-hole stretch.
After that, 2 at $6,800, Wes Bryan, who was 4th here last year, and Martin Flores, who I just mentioned, who has some success. And you know who loves Martin Flores besides Ryan Baroff? Stats. Okay. I could see Flores. He does. I think I used him at the Puerto Rico Open. I want to say that. And so I think those guys are worthwhile deep plays that I will seriously consider. Wesley Bryan, his off the tee is as bad as you're going to see, but the rest of it is pretty legitimate. And this is a course where you can get away with that to an extent, similar to Tiger in the thought process. So I think I will look at both of them and Andrew Landry. Those are kind of the guys as extreme punts for me. Can I talk you back into Scott Brown?
You don't have to talk me back. I don't think I was ever on Scott Brown. Yeah, I mean, you first round leader, why not? The guy, he gets off to blazing Sam Saunders starts. Hasn't been doing much this year, though. He's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, so Stewart Sink at 67 will end up being the chalk down in this range. I didn't even particularly dislike him. I actually think he's kind of a nice play. But if you start getting him in the double digits, you're probably best allocating your money somewhere else and spreading around the risk.
Yeah, I think that's kind of well said. No problem with Sink. I see why people would want to end with him even in cash. But if he's 15% or something, 10 to 15%, I will kind of try to make a different build and not really hitch my wagons there.
Someone who generally plays well on par 70s is the Ass Wagon. He's $6,700. People seem to be a bit on him. He's getting a little bit of buzz. And the other two that I wanted to bring up, Fat Tower after last week played really well. He's kind of hit and miss. He's like an explosion, or he comes inside like the top 15. And the other guy right above him, we're back in Florida. I know there's more than one round to this tournament. Matt Every's right there.
Boy. Yeah, I don't know if I can. I thought you were going to say Danny Lee.
Poor Danny Lee, man. Remember when he was like $9,700 in tournaments?
Yeah. Oh, I remember. Believe me, I remember. And then he would just miss the cut or withdraw. I don't know if I can go. Yeah, Fat Hour. I don't know if he holed out multiple times last week or they just kept showing it. Because I was flicking between the golf and some other stuff. I would come back and they would just show him, getting an eagle on a par 4. I don't know if I can go to these guys. I think for me, I'll probably, it seems weird to say pay up, but I think I'll try to find the extra money for guys like McGirt and that range. These are just a little too risky for me.
I'm with you. I think that's probably the best way to do it. I think the more you can stay out of this range, the better off you're going to do this week. Unless you have the one guy that hits and you're the only one with him, then it's Cash Money City. You find the Ted Potter of the week, and boom, you win all the monies.
That is, yeah, I mean, there is DraftKings has a $1 winner take all. So if you're making lineups specifically for that, you could use someone like this and try to hit the Ted Potter.
Asswagon might be that guy.
If I had to pick someone from down here, yeah, it would probably be him. He's making cuts. And every so often, I've been playing him low key, like 5% in recent weeks. It's done nothing for me, but I could see that.
Yeah, he's made 3 cuts in a row, generally plays better at these par 70s because he's a par 3 specialist. There are very few par 3 specialists around. He just crushes par 3s every single year.
Yeah, that's quite a skill. I didn't know there were par 3 specialists.
Graham Dillette, another par 3 specialist.
Where is Graham Dillette?
He's injured.
Yeah.
All right.
Because this is no chipping. That would be right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, this would be a perfect place. Maybe I'm ready to see him at the Masters someday and see how well that turns out.
That would be something.
All right, that'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience Honda Classic DraftKings Picks and Preview. Ben Rasa, you can follow him on Twitter at JazzRazDFS. And Ben, tell us all about the FanVice product you guys got going on right now.
Yeah, no, it's a fun time, obviously, with NASCAR launching. We got golf in full swing, getting ready for baseball. So yeah, come sign up. You get into our Slack chat, which is always fun. We got articles, projections, and obviously podcasts and videos. So come check it out. A lot of fun.
You can follow me on Twitter at ThePME. You can do the same on Facebook and Instagram. My DK cheat sheet will be up on DKPlaybook.com. My betting cheat sheet will be up on my Facebook page, facebook.com/thepme. And remember, become a member at Fantasy National right now. You listen to 1 or 2 podcasts and you be like, oh, I got to go hand build lineups and do all my research and figure out who I like. Yeah, it's become a member of Fantasy National. Take you like 20 minutes. Perfect. It's just over $4 a week, basically, if you get the yearly package. So you just play 20 lineups instead of 21 lineups in the $4, and you're good to go. Fact is, you can't even play 21. So joke's on you. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Give the episode a like, sub to the show. Thanks a lot for watching. Good luck this week. I'll see you next time.